bar eyeballs for a few minutes. I know your screens are going to miss you. Damn. So, yeah, you're right. They put me just after those guys. So I was thinking about a priest, a minister, and a rabbi who walk into a bar. Actually, after a few drinks, they decided that clergy work is not for them. They want to change their line of work. So they go to the Detective Training Institute. The trainer puts a picture on the wall and it says, I want you to tell me one thing about this man. The priest says, he has one eye. The trainer says, it's a profile picture. So the minister says, he has one ear. The trainer says, it's a profile picture. The rabbi looks, he smiles, he says, the man is wearing contacts. So how do you know that? He says, well, how can you be wearing glasses with only one ear and one eye? You know, a lot of people know me from my work with Friendship Circle, but today I'm going to talk about my passion for recovery work, working with recovering addicts, my passion for social media, and how they merge together every day, 140 characters at a time. I was sitting on the boardwalk, February 2002, Nice, France. I was looking at the beach, my phone rings, my friend Levi Shemtov, he says, how about moving to Detroit? It's like 5 degrees here today, Fahrenheit. I'm like, are you crazy? I mean, it's balmy outside, I see the French Alps. Why would I want to move to Detroit? You know, the first thing I learned is weather is not something that can produce happiness. I was miserable, he knew that. So he said, you're going to work with recovering addicts, you know, AA and everything. I said yes, but I didn't know what AA everything meant. And that's my other lesson is, do not move to another continent without finding out what AA is first. But I came here, and I really fell in love with my job. I fell in love with the recovery community. I fell in love with recovering addicts. I was able to see past the profile picture and see the amount of energy, tenacity, and courage they put in everyday work. And I was also following the teachings of my mentor and my teacher, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who said, behind every wall of dysfunctionality and bad behavior, there's a shining diamond that's waiting to be revealed. Get it? I also have a love and a passion for technology and computers. Back in the early 80s, way before Al Gore invented the internet, we had something in France called the Minitel. Anybody familiar? No? Okay. Oh, you one guy over here? Good. Every house in France had this little data terminal. We went on there, and we were able to look up phone numbers, movie reviews, restaurants. It went down the drain after a few months when the porn industry took over. In the early 90s on CompuServe, I remember the day when a chat window popped up on my screen, and it was someone from Australia who wanted to talk to me. I was like, wow, this is awesome. I love the internet. October 23rd, 2008, almost 2 years ago, I signed up for Twitter. And I did not know why. I knew I did not want to share what I eat for breakfast, because I don't eat breakfast. So I started looking around a little bit, and there was some, they gave us suggestions, follow this person, follow that person. I got to know a bunch of amazing people. Actually, I was thinking, whose name should I drop today? And there was so many names. I got an idea, and I pitched last night to Brandon, a new widget for PowerPoint called Name Dropper. So you could actually give your presentation on PowerPoint, and the widget on the side just drops the name for you, one at a time. You just put all the names of all the people you know, you want to know, you wish you know, you want your friends to think you know, and the name dropper is going to drop it for you. I have the copyright for that, so if anybody steals the idea, the rabbi is going to be after you. Now, after a few months on Twitter, I realized that Twitter and recovery, social media and recovery, were a match made in heaven. I like to say in French, un match made in heaven. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you a story. A man walks on the street, he falls into a pit, he calls for help. A clergyman, we're not going to discriminate, comes by and says, I'm going to help you. He writes a prayer on a piece of paper, he throws it into the pit. A doctor comes by, he writes a prescription, throws it into the pit. A friend comes by, he jumps into the pit. I said, what are you doing? Now we're both stuck. He says, no. I've been in this pit before, and I came here to show you the way out. How many people in this room are cancer survivors? Huh? Anybody? Yes? Okay, good. Now, if you have cancer, God forbid, if anybody has cancer, for sure you want to see a good doctor, the best doctor. If you're Jewish, you're going to open the Hour magazine and look for the best doctor in Michigan. But after, who do you want to go to talk about your struggles of your everyday life? You're going to go to cancer survivor. See, I follow a bunch of inspirational people on Twitter. They're always optimistic, shiny, smiling. They always have amazing stuff to say. When I have a bad day, I don't want to hear that stuff. When I follow my recovering peeps, they're talking about their struggles and their victories. They talk about their mistakes and their successes, their triumphs and their everyday grind of life. And there is no other method for a recovering addict in his recovery than to get support from his peers. The therapist is great, the treatment center is great. Peer recovery actually is at the forefront today. The federal government is investing so much money in peer recovery. And which medium is best prepared for peer connection, if not social media and Twitter? So I decided I'm going to start hashtagging all my tweets about recovery with the hashtag recovery. And long story short, I'm going to skip a lot of stuff over here because I'm running late. It was stolen by President Obama when he took over recovery.gov. And we switched to XA, which is a combination of all recovery programs, A, NA, all that stuff, all into one little hashtag. One of the people I met through this hashtag was a girl named Lisa H., also known as @BMadDen, and she was from San Antonio, Texas, and she was there in July when there was an annual, actually it's every 5 years, there's an international AA convention, and something beautiful happened during that weekend that have never happened in the pre-Twitter world. So I'm going to read this letter that I got from a man named Dan F., who's 18 years in recovery. He submitted the story to the AA Grapevine, which is the official newsletter of AA. It's called A Social Media Miracle. I read really fast, pay attention. Lisa H. is a beautiful 29-year-old San Antonio AA member. She's an active, dedicated Hispanic woman who just celebrated her 4th year of sobriety on July 10th. I read even faster in Hebrew. She had recently been struggling with a spiritual connection. She described the feeling of suffering with a sense of emptiness that only God could fill. She went home after the convention and prayed for an opportunity to be of service. The convention had ended Sunday afternoon. While waiting in the hotel lobby for our transportation to the airport, I suffered a grand mal seizure. The episode became protracted and developed into life-threatening status epilepticus. Had this happened on the airplane, I would have died. I was transported to a local hospital via EMS, admitted to ICU, intubated, and put on a ventilator. My wife was asked if we wanted Last Ride to be performed. Prayer requests were sent far and wide. Members of our Detroit Metropolitan Recovery Community were contacted. Late Sunday night, Recovery Rabbi heard of my hospitalization. He Facebooked Lisa in San Antonio and asked if she could make a recovery visit to my ICU room. She recognized and answered to her prayer. She told Recovery Rabbi she would visit me the next day. By Monday, I'd stabilized to the point where I was removed from the ventilator. I then became restless, irritable, and discontented. I was so agitated and competitive that I began pulling out IVs and removing oxygen tubing. I was placed in 4 point restraints. The staff could not deal with my behavior. At this point, Lisa and her friend Linda were at my bedside. They began reciting a vision from you from the Big Book of AA. I began to calm down. Linda said, "This man needs a meeting." The nursing staff was amazed by my response and became willing to bend the 2-visitor-only rule. A single call was made for AA support. At 8 p.m., 12 AA members gathered by my bedside for the first San Antonio AA ICU meeting. My agitation had returned and I was again becoming restless. Lisa placed the Big Book on my chest. I calmed down and the meeting commenced. I was later told I was able to share some of my story, and a member of the third meeting came specifically to hear about, quote, the guy who drank antifreeze and drove off a cliff, end quote. For the next 3 nights, AA showed up for me. The meeting continued and my daughters were asked to participate. At our last meeting, my daughter Ari said, "We flew out to help my dad and he had glad to have us here, but you all came and loved him and gave him what he actually needed. I cannot believe that this kind of love and service can exist so far from home." The next day, Lisa tweeted me, "This has been an incredible journey for me. Thanks again for the opportunity. I will miss your friends. They have forever changed my life." Lisa's actually coming this weekend to spend time with us all. And I'm going to finally get her to meet her in real life. And thanks to Twitter, she knows the rules. No touching the rock. Rock on, Detroit!
I love when somebody starts doing the whole rock and roll thing and you're gonna rock on Detroit. It's great. Excellent work. So I asked our next speaker if he wanted me to say